Hey, all right, we're in. What's up, peeps? What's up? I'm here with my boy Ryan Berry from Zappi with his Boston Red Sox hat. I like that. He's from Boston. Gotta love my Boston boys.
It's my beach hat too. You know, salt water on it. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's a salty hat, like salty Bostonian.
Salty hat today. I'm hoping to sneak to the pool because it's going to be 100 degrees here today. I've heard.
What type of humidity?
I don't know. I haven't been outside. I worked out at 6 a.m. and I got right back inside. I said I'm not going to be dealing with that. Dude. But my wife and the kids are swimming somewhere, so I might join them later.
100 degrees, man. And look, we know the humidity in Massachusetts isn't like zero. So we know that shit is all the time is 60% or higher. So it's that's sweat when you walk out. Like that's just walk out and stop beating sweat.
Yeah, it's hot.
Man. Oh man. All right, Money. Well, look, I'm glad you're here. For those of you who are listening, Ryan and I worked together. Ryan hired us. Oh shoot!
This time last year. Well, last June.
Last June. Yep. All right. Ryan had us last June. We're going to talk about some of the cool stuff we did with them, his experience with gap selling training, but most importantly, or equally importantly, is I didn't know Ryan before he reached out to us, and you know I'm blessed because we just built a great relationship. We got similar styles. He's a great cat, and so we're always talking about family and skiing and all that stuff. And we decided, hey, let's do something like this and talk about the success he's having because his team is having some crazy ass success in the middle of this pandemic. Look, he's either a prognosticator and Ryan can see the future, or he just got damn lucky that we started working last year and he made some changes to his team and we did a lot of stuff that has set him up to be where he is now. And I'll let him decide if he hadn't done that, what he thinks the impact would be. But so Ryan, everybody says Ryan, my boy Ryan Berry from CRO of Zappi. Welcome him. I don't know what else to say. There you go.
Love you. There we go. Like to be here, seeing sales with you, man.
Yes, this is going to be good. So why don't you just start sort of from the beginning? I mean, like what went down?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll tell you guys a story of like our business. I think, because I think it's an important story that we're sharing because so many technology specifically companies are trying to get up to the enterprise. They raise a bunch of money and they're like, we're going to go up market. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be famous. And we're a business that kind of, I think, fell into some nice growth early. And we were at a time for probably 2 or 3 years, the only gang in town that sort of delivered on the value prop that we had. We help brand, and our company helps brands get access to their consumers to answer business questions quickly. So we test ads, we test products, we help them do that really effectively in a nice way. And all of a sudden, the market started getting flooded. A lot of companies, and if you just focus on the value prop vernacular, 900 companies, they all look the same. And we're now we always sold to brands. We were always an enterprise company, but we're trying to go from.
Are you allowed to say some of the brands or types of brands so people understand the size?
Yeah, so like we work with PepsiCo, McDonald's,
big brands,
and wireless. You see a Verizon ad on TV, we tested it. I mean, so those are some of our customers.
These are big brands that are people perceive as hard to get into, hard to get their attention. This is not like just call some podunk guy. So yeah, this is people need to understand.
And it's one of the reasons why I do get a kick out of the MarTech plays that are like, let's go upstream. And it is just a different game when you're selling to, we're a mid-sized business. You're selling to me. It's very different than selling to a major business or something.
Yep.
So we had some great success and the market started to get flooded. We had some partnerships that we needed to wind down. So we're in sort of a very big transitionary time in our business. And we knew that we were also, by the way, converting to a subscription model. And so we were going through that. And what we noticed was our top 3 or 4 AEs got it, but we were having a really hard time bringing everybody else along because it was a complex sale in a complex market. We also sell to 7 different verticals. So all this bullshit of like sales motions, so I was thinking through that and saying, okay, we were also really starting to think about how do we upskill our people? How do we get more people hitting numbers? Like that was a KPI that was really important to us. And I had read your book and I was like, wow, that articulates our problem. Like, because in the early days, we could be like, we know your shit's broken. We're going to fix it. We got you.
Yep.
That worked, I guess, in those early days. There wasn't an alternative, right? So the whole like blind challenger sale at the detriment of discovery is what I'm talking about, right? Yep. We would go in with commercial insights and a clear path forward and we'd get some sales, but we weren't getting, we want to go from, 2014 $20K ARPA to several $100,000, right? Like just a different game. And there's, you think of a PepsiCo as an example. They've got something like 600 people that do consumer insights. Think all the brands that they own. So it's like, cool, you got one lady in New Jersey to buy an ad test from you.
Yeah, I remember when I came on and I was doing my day with you and you were walking me through some of that stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, like that's just one. I remember thinking the size and scale of this, and you were talking about these little things, and I couldn't connect. I was like, why is it happening like that? I couldn't connect the dots because I was like, it didn't make any sense. So yeah, I remember I was blown away by that.
It's a really, just because you get an account, you sort of have to go differently. So we were really thinking through that, and at the time, we had experimented with SDRs multiple times, right? We had an SDR team times 3, and it didn't work. And it didn't work for, I think, a variety of reasons. Execution, of course, is on that list. But if I look back at our buying personas, they're introverted marketing scientists working at major brands. And so like they weren't going to take a call off of some sales cadence. Like it wasn't working. So because of that, we fell into the trap where we had our AEs full stack. So they would acquire customers, they would land them, and they would expand them. And that was, I think, the biggest unlock for us. And by the way, this time 2 years ago, we were looking at, oh my God, we have some amazing customers, and the classic technology company problem, we got to make it more successful. So we invested in customer success. And to this day, I think our customer success team is probably the strongest team we've got. So that was on one side of it, but we're like, okay, if there's 1,500 buyers in account X, why don't I your ass about getting a new logo? Just go play.
Do you remember we were sitting in that? Remember we were sitting in the conference room and you're writing it all this stuff and you're showing me everything. And I think we may have had the aha moment at the same time. I said, wait a minute, why are you spending so much time and effort? I was like, but you just said this, and that's hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. Why you? And you were like, I never forget. You kind of leaned back and you looked at the board and you're like, yeah,
you're right. That was, so that was the start of our engagement that day. And, we'll talk about gap selling, but I think, there's a lot of companies that are going through evolutions, and having your partnership that summer really helped me get everything tight. So we get out of it. Like, you came to Cape Cod, we did our go-to-market kickoff meeting.
Yep.
Most teams are doing their go-to-market kickoff meeting in February. So we were getting that stuff done in September.
Yep.
And, of course, we're now 7 months into some of those adjustments. We're making some new adjustments, but we had an ample amount of time to really think through it, identify the talent, like who should be on the acquisition. So our teams now are essentially split between acquisition and expansion.
Yep.
And then we've got a good, better, best.
And now everybody has their own the new expansion, or so let's say the new logo team has their own quota.
Yep.
And then you have those who account expansion or whatever, they have their own quota and they're only responsible for that. Talk about how that by itself impacted or changed the output for you now. Like, how do you think that impacted your ability to weather the storm and share with people listening? Because, not everybody knows the story, how well you guys are doing through this pandemic.
Yeah, we had a really good first half. We had an amazing first quarter. Like everybody, April was a little bumpy because I think there's just so much uncertainty. But really the bet on existing customers, so whether it be both things, customer success, we've invested in a lot of senior domain experts who can help in between sales and customer success. And then that account management focus, like I could have turned off net new business in the first half and would have been fine. But as a result of the focus, we won some major contracts in the first half. Like with, I'm not yet as vibey with the new customers, so I'm not going to name drop, but beers in your fridge type companies, right? And so the focus on that meant I think the net new team had less pressure. So their numbers are going to be smaller because we're asking them to bring in something, and then we know that on the other side we've got people who can really understand the organization. So I think in addition to the business performance side, we're in a strong position, 3 strong quarters in a row. We were, when our engagement, we had a pretty bumpy summer last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was a bumpy summer, and we're like, oh crap. You sold me on a gap. The gap ended up being a little bigger.
Wait, say that again. Say that again. Do I practice what I preach?
He did gap sell me. It was good.
And we found a gap, and this is cool for those of you who are listening, you salespeople especially. There was a real number there, and he didn't have a budget. You didn't have a budget either, did you?
I didn't have a budget for what, investments?
Yeah, and for sales training or for sales consulting.
By the way, all the like dozens of BDRs who call me every day, I still don't have a budget for that stuff. If someone solves a problem, I buy it. It's simple.
Yeah. And so the only reason I want to pause for people to hear what they could have just missed and rolled right over is that a gap sold you. We found the size of the gap and you bought, and it turned out the gap was even bigger than I had identified or we collectively had created. So the value you got from us working together was even way greater than you had initially thought it would be. Oh,
significantly. And I've watched a bunch of people try to sell you on this platform. There's not that many levers if you're selling to a mid-market SMB or even enterprise software company to a go-to-market leader. And so the gap was, he just asked me, what percentage of your reps are hitting plan? What's your quota? And that, $4 million gap, right? And I remember it was that quick in your head. And I was like, well, yeah, this 35 grand doesn't sound like a problem anymore, right? Like, let's work on that.
Yeah.
You know, and it was, you know, gap selling training aside, the partnership and thinking through that stuff was amazing because I could disagree with you and have that tension, but also have somebody to bounce stuff off of, which was humongous. I mean, it was, you know, so a year later, I'm pretty pleased with it. I think, you know, the expansion side is, you know, you asked before, like, you know, COVID, how are you guys doing all right in COVID? We're doubling down on existing logos where there is a lot of room to grow. And if we have happy customers within those groups, we can help other brands that are adjacent. And I think that's been what's been huge for us. You know
what's interesting too. So, and by the way, everybody listening, if you have questions, jump in, folks. I'm watching live here. So if you have questions for Ryan, put them in, ask him. We want this to be as interactive as possible so we can answer your questions that you may have about building your sales team, pivoting with your sales team, et cetera. But so Ryan, you know how I think. And so I'm not surprised at all that you guys are doing well with the during COVID because of your focus on the expansion, but also because think about this. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but if I'm selling for you, knowing what you guys do, I now know that because of COVID, if I'm one of your customers, I can't lose or waste money on unperforming ads because now the return on my ad spend has to be even that much more tight because everybody's freaking out about money, right?
Yeah. Well, there's the money, right? But then there's the brand damage. Like, if you put something out that's offensive, I mean, either one of the two major social issues we're dealing with right now. You gotta be careful, man. Like, you know, you gotta be really careful. And so I think, you know, we did when the world fell apart, we did a bunch of.
Oh shoot! You froze. At least froze on my end.
Modules so that you can understand, is this socially okay? And we obviously with Black Lives Matter movement, we've kept it going because I think a lot of brands are trying to figure out how do they in a tactful way take a stand on this very important topic. So yeah, there's you got to talk to your consumers now. So we're also pretty lucky. We do it digitally, we do it quickly. Brands that used to be able to spend $1 million on something, they don't have $1 million anymore. So but they still need to have the same level of closeness with their customers, which is huge.
Wow. I never even thought about the risk of sending the wrong message and how you guys could prevent. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, if I had to sell something, I'd love to be one of your internal salespeople, man. Oh, there's just so much value at what you guys.
Keenan and Zappi's fun. I've always enjoyed it. Man, I don't keep selling, man, but that's okay. I get to play every so often.
Right. So what do you think let's shift for a second. What do you think? So there was any other organizational stuff that you felt made a difference that set you up for this to be where you are now?
Well, I think, you know, we're going to quickly transition to gap selling, which I think was the other big unlock in terms of, and I'll be brutally honest here of what we are and what we're not doing with gap selling. Keenan and I aren't going to make this shiny case study, right? Like it's fucking hard, right? It's difficult. Sorry for the curse word.
On my show, you're going to say sorry for the curse word? That's fucking good.
I just thought it was funny when you said sorry. I was like, oh, maybe I stepped. But no, I think the major organizational unlock was acquisition and expansion, but we also mobilized an offer segmentation. Not all of our customers have the same problems.
Yes.
So if somebody wants to be able to come in and keep it moving, why are we trying to talk to them about digital transformation? Who cares?
Yep.
So that has also helped us. And so what Scott, who heads our sales team, did was we essentially have an account management tiering structure based on our go-to-market, which has allowed customers to really get the service that they need. And it also, I mean, frankly, it cleans up a lot, whether it be, how we innovate products. And so those two things together, and then also just doing it in a thoughtful way. When markets are moving as fast as they are, businesses are growing, we do have to call adjustments along the way. And I used to tease Keenan when we were working closely together, like, it's always easy on the whiteboard, bud. But we remember I used to give you shit about that all the time. We gave ourselves enough time to have thoughtful conversations with our talent. Mm-hmm. Not only did we make this change, but nobody's quit. We've had.
I remember the concern about that. I remember that was one of our
people. It's really important to me.
Yes, I remember. Ryan's a huge people person. I remember, and I'm getting old, so if I screw this up, correct me. But I remember I was advocating pretty hard that he had to make some of these changes and put people in the right roles. And he was concerned that people would get upset or they might not make it work. And I was a little inflexible. I was like, you got to figure that out. Yeah. You just have to figure that out. And so good on you for being able to figure it out and not lose anybody, because that was a big concern. I remember that.
Yeah. And what we ended up doing for people who want to, like, what is this guy talking about? We weren't blind. We basically wrote the job descriptions and we said, where do you identify? And then if we thought there was a skill misalignment, we would have a coaching session to be like, are you sure this is the right thing for you? So the net result was, when it came time for 2020 assignments, nobody was like, oh, thanks for the curveball management team. They were like, let's go get it, whatever their job.
It was a big change. Like, folks, I don't think you understand. We're not talking one or two people had to switch a job. Like, there were people who literally are hired for something and they thought that was their role. And by the time 2020 started, it's like, I'm not that anymore. And it was a lot of people. So you handled that transition really well.
Well, we also had, you remember this, we had people that were in management roles that aren't in management roles anymore.
This
happens all the time. And I'll put my hand up so people can tease me about this versus feeling guilty themselves. We have a tendency to see stars and we over-promote them. Mm-hmm. And their superpowers are being with customers, not necessarily coaching AEs. And it's just very different skills. And so as a result, we also simplify the shit out of our management structure, which I think has been pretty good. So anyways, those are the major organizational things.
Yeah, it was a good ride. And I just was so pumped. Like I said, sometimes you better be lucky than good. So the idea that you had the foresight to see these problems and jump on them early and didn't try to wait and say, oh, I'll do this next year. Like, I literally got off a discovery call with someone the other day and clearly had similar problems too, different but similar, because I mean, at the end of the day, they're all somewhat similar,
right?
And but his manifestation of them were the same, and he's like, all right, we're going to think about this and and I was like, I'm not sure what there is to think about. I would make more money allowing people to see me do my discovery calls with clients than I would anything else, because they would just be dying and watching the way that I handle people.
Yeah,
I literally said to her, I said, what is there to think about? I said, you just told me that you're losing this much money. You just told me you haven't been able to do this. You just told me you can't do this. You just told me you've only got a runway that's this long. You told me that you're missing this. You told me they're missing all this stuff. I was like, what exactly are you waiting on? Like, you explained to me why, well, we're not sure we have the money. Like, wait. We don't have the money. You want to spend the money. I was like, well, then I'm like, we're talking $1 million plus.
Right.
I don't cost $1 million. Right. So again, and you're at 30, I can't remember what it was, like $20 or $30 million company. Again, I'm confused here why you're afraid to spend, just a little under six figures to get the millions back that you need, that you've already said you can't, you have no other way of doing it. You don't understand how you're going to get it. And so my point in telling you the story is, you had the wherewithal and the foresight, because you even said it earlier, like, dang, wait, that's a no-brainer, that people get in their own way.
Yeah.
I literally called them out on the call. I was like, unless your issue is you're not sure I can do it, which is legitimate. If you don't think I can do it, okay, that's a fair discussion. But if you believe I can do it and you're not pulling the trigger, I have to question your management.
Yeah.
Unless you have another option. Then if you have another option, let's talk about that. But yeah, it's so I give you credit. My point in that is, give you credit doing it. You did it ahead of time so that when all this year, 2019 was done, you went into 2020 on fire.
Yeah.
Like locked and loaded.
Oh, yeah.
So when all of a sudden and you were flying high in the first quarter, and then all of a sudden when it was all shit the bed, you were, I'm calling it pandemic proof.
Yeah, we felt pretty good. I mean, we had our best month ever in June, which is amazing.
That's dope.
So, and and it wasn't just expansion. We had, just give it, our team is super resilient. And also like for everybody who's going home, working remote, it's tough, especially if you're in sales, like it's lonely, or on the net new side, you don't have the team to sort of go out and have a beer with and decompress. We had some fun last summer, but you obviously you got to give it to the people. They're the ones who have to actually go do the work. And they took onto these roles really well. It's funny. We just had a global customer week. Every one of our top accounts, we have codified account plans into Salesforce because it's an expansion play. Yep. When I met you, I was like, we just don't know enough about our customers. Do you know how many times that customer week I had to be like, we have no clue what this customer needs? 0. I couldn't believe it. Like just the sheer like understanding and empathy that the team has, it's just night and day. So that as we transition to talk about gap selling, I think that's probably the single biggest unlock. Is it really shakes you to say, it's not about you. Stop it. Right? Like it's about your customers and making them successful. And if you're not listening to their thing, just go home. Like, don't pitch your features or any of this other bullshit. So anyways, it's I think that discovery focus is really what we've gotten great at. Gap selling, I've told you this a lot. That's some PhD shit. It really is. I mean, I remember I did a call to practice before I started training the teams, and I remember having Keenan in my gong, just like, no, stop talking. Like, it was like, oh man, you're right. Like too much time for. Remember that? I was like,
yes,
I got a sales coach like that. Well, when I was this AE, we didn't have cool tools like Gong.
No, we did not.
I just go to my boss and be like, no, we're good. We're gonna get that deal this month.
We're good. Yes, we got this. Yeah. Dude, so it's interesting that you say, and again, folks, if you have questions, please ask them here. But that you say gap selling is PhD shit, and so take a second to tell me why you think that, and what do you think of people who say, "Oh, I've read the book and we're implementing it," and they never took the training and they never worked with me?
I think if you've just read the book, it's too big of a concept. It's a skill, it's a technique. Mm-hmm. Also, to get it to work in your organization, and I would give us a C+ at best on gap selling. If I'm completely honest with everybody here, you got to get a pick that's your buyer's pick. You figure my market, I've got Europe, Asia, Americas, 7 verticals, 4 different personas. Depending on where we're meeting the persona, their disposition's different. Mm-hmm. So like even that alone, like you got to turn that whole thing on its head. Mm-hmm. So if they just read the book, they probably were intellectually intrigued, but like, I see it all the time. I read the book, and there was one dude who was trying to sell you here on LinkedIn, and I was laughing because that was his opening line. And then he went into like, we help companies change the world by blah, blah, blah. And I was like, nice, man, you're going to get lit up. You were actually very nice to him. I forget the guy's name. You were very nice to him. I was expecting you to be more punchy.
It was probably because he was so bad. You know what I'm saying?
I think I'll tell you a couple of reasons where I think it's specifically tricky. In the enterprise, right? You get it's a matrix. They're all matrices.
Yep.
And a lot of times the business owner isn't the technical buyer, but you don't actually, in many cases, you don't want to sell to the business owner. Mm-hmm. Because they're never going to be the consumer of the product. And frankly, if you go to get a check signed by them, they're just going to push you back to the technical buyer anyway. So in our world, you want to get at true gap. You're looking at, how much money did you lose based on ads that didn't perform? How many times did you test ads? And all of a sudden that starts to compound. What we've sort of noticed is a lot of our customers don't know the business problems or get very uncomfortable with them. So and you probably aren't going to like to hear me say this, where we found in a nice lane is actually in the technical problem space.
Yep.
Because our buyers live that space.
They live that space every day.
They live that space every day. Now, what I think we're starting to think about is, if I look at our user persona versus our kind of corporate sponsors, they all work in customer insights, but they do think about different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It's similar to me, right? Like if you're going to ask me what's the biggest thing our sales team needs to do, it'd be very different than what our
your manager might say, or the salesperson themselves might say.
Exactly. Yeah. And we've like we've got a good marketing engine, so a lot of our conversations are coming inbound. Mm-hmm. But if we have somebody whose job it is to see if this glass is going to work, that's their problem. Like on this day, it depends on where we come in the organization. And I think that's been the most difficult part of gap selling. I think to do it right, we probably need to do a few trainings and get really in there, which we probably should do. Whether or not, and I want to keep pushing it, but because of how hard gap selling is, discovery all of a sudden looked easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we now don't sell without a discovery call, and we used to.
Stop. Say that again. Say, everybody listen to the man who's pandemic proof. Say that again.
We won't sell without a discovery call.
Boom! And we're talking a legitimate discovery call too. So we're not just talking about a 15-minute thing and let's run in demo for you, correct?
No, not just that. No, an isolated call, because what you need to do is listen and ask questions and then make your proposal, your pitch, your demo tailored to that customer.
Yes.
And it's interesting how early up the funnel this needs to be changed. It starts with your website CTAs. How many of us have booked demo here? I think Javi, who runs our website, still finding them and taking them out. So if you say to a buyer, book demo, and then your sales organization's like, we're doing discos, the buyer shows up.
We talked about this when I came out. I was like, this has to stop.
Yeah.
Because your team kept saying, well, I'm getting these people who want a demo. That's why they clicked the button. And what do I remember your team saying, how do I transition that? That's why they're coming. And I'm like, we've got to stop setting the expectation with all your buyers that they're getting a demo.
Yeah. And part of that is if somebody wants a technical demo, we've been very problem-centric in our marketing. So click the website and watch something, read a blog post, right?
Yeah.
But if you think of any complex, and sales today is no longer the whole BS slick talker, bro show that it used to be. It's a smart person's game these days.
Yes.
It's a smart person's game. And so as somebody who I have a background in sales, that's where I came up from. I'm really proud that that's where sales is at, because it used to be like this, oh, well, you're a sales guy, but it's like, well, actually, no, I help businesses like that. And so the those shortcuts of I'm super charming, who cares? I got a guy on my team who's frankly quirky.
Yeah.
He's on with the customers, game over, because he just knows what he's talking about. He listens to them first and then asserts, right? And so, but it's hard. I remember when you were coaching some of our team, and when you're genuinely excited about what you sell, it's also easy to hear half the problem and be like, oh, I got him now. I'm psyched. I can't wait. But there's more if you just shut up and listen a little longer,
And know what questions to ask, right? Yeah. I think one of the things about gap selling discovery that I love so much, but it's hard to teach people, is we all want to be able to reduce, and you see it all over Facebook. All we want to do in America is reduce complex things to the simplest thing. Just do this, right? I don't even give me the COVID shit. Masks don't work, right? And they go on trying to make something complex about how masks work by comparing it to other stupid things, right? The world doesn't work that way. So in discovery gap selling, you can't do that. It's just the opposite. You have to actually listen to what they say, hear them, and almost on the fly know what the next question is going to be. But you won't know it until they open their mouth and you listen, you take it in, you can process oh, okay, here's my next question. Shut up, listen, see what they say, and then your next question comes from that.
Yes.
Right? And at full-on discovery, now long discovery, I might ask 4 or 5 questions that were standard scripted questions. And those are usually after I've gotten all I wanted out of one section, I need to take them to another place. But right. I don't think enough people listen to develop their question. They develop their question to get an answer and then keep doing that over and over and never get it anywhere.
Keep moving. And I'm going to say something that somewhat challenges this, because in order to anticipate the next question, you have to know their space.
Yes.
Inside and out, almost better than them. So it makes it really hard. There's all this data of job hopping AEs. I feel bad because it's going to take you or your management a lot of time to impart upon you domain context.
Yes. But most companies don't do that.
No.
Think about this. You guys, I think we talked about this when I was out there. I was like, I would love to see an organization stop their sales product training and do just domain training.
So actually, it's funny because I think in our cohort around the time you and I were working together, it was too late. And it was that same group of people. I was doing some like, hey, how'd we do? And it was like too much product stuff too early. Now it might've just been the proximity of time working with you.
Yeah.
But we spend a lot more time now in like the personas, vision of the company, why it exists, the problems we solve. And I've gotten some really good feedback lately that we're the first company people have worked for in a while that like, we just hired a new content marketer, and she's like, normally by now I've like already written a blog post, but you guys actually want me to know what I'm talking about. I'm somebody who believes in brand blindly.
Yep.
Sales is our biggest channel. They're our biggest touch point in the marketplace. So if we have somebody in the market who doesn't know what our buyers are going through, that's bad for business, right? So anyways, that's my story.
It's a good story. We had fun. Folks, again, anybody have any questions, feel free to ask them. Good conversation in here. Pamela, good. Yes. Yeah, I like that. Douglas, absolutely. So if you have a question, ask it. All right. So what is interesting, tell me about this though, because you only give yourself a C+ when it comes to gap selling, but even executing at a C+ level using your self-deprecating assessment, that still has created market improvement, hasn't it?
Yes. Well, we've closed the gap, right? Like, so, I'm now looking at new things that are areas of opportunity. And then trying to just continuously or incrementally improve. Like this time last year, we just didn't have it culturally. Like it just wasn't part of our culture. It was we didn't listen well enough. And it's funny, I've been looking at some of the trends in our Gong data of like our talk to listen ratio. And it's like, it's changed the other direction. It makes me smile, cause it's like, oh, okay, good. So we know what we're talking about before we jump into something. But even the C+, it does mean we can bring the right people around opportunities. We can also fail the right opportunities. Like this actually isn't a fit for you guys. That's cool. Which is just as important.
And how much time do you think you've saved by telling a client after a good discovery you don't think it's a good fit in the past that would have ended up in the pipeline?
It's hard to say how much time. I don't know the answer to that question, but a lot. Also giving our teams the ability. So I'll tell a story. I don't know if Ellen from my team is listening or will be listening, but we got this RFP from the other major soda brand. And it was us and everybody else who's ever done research. And there was no inclination to like get on the phone. It was, and so we just pulled out. I just said, guys, we're out. We're not doing this.
Yes.
And I remember like when I was talking to the two members of my team, they're like, are you serious? Like, I was like, yeah, F it. Like, who cares? Like, it's not worth our time. And so I think like that starts with me being comfortable saying no to that stuff.
Yes.
I got a lot of pressure on my head. I got the number and the revenue number and the all the numbers, right? And it's like, that's going to derail high talent. Like these are also a team who would have been working on this, or two people who I think Ellen 186% of plan in H1. Like, oh, let me take Ellen off of the ball for 8 weeks to write a PowerPoint document that's going to go into a procurement vacuum. No, Ellen is way too good for that. Like, I'm not doing that with Ellen, And
this other soda brand wouldn't get on the phone with you. They wouldn't engage in a sale. So everybody's listening. I say this in the book. I say this in the book, and I've said it publicly before. You're not selling if you're answering an RFP that doesn't allow you to talk to the stakeholders, that won't give you the information, that won't let you do a discovery, that won't engage with you. That's not selling. And so other than government work, which I do not claim to have any domain expertise in, and that's the only way to work with the government, other than that, don't do it. You're wasting your time. Good on you, my man. Good on you.
Now, it also doesn't mean you can't win RFPs. We won 2 major RFPs this year. But our AEs did a really good job of back channeling and infiltrating the procurement process.
Yeah, they had the conversations. That's all I'm saying. You got to have the conversations. You have to have the conversations. You can't get the conversations. It's just even if you do win it, the win percentage is so low that it's just not worth your time, right? Especially if you have a lot of customers. So yeah, that's. I love you sharing that with people and people hearing that. I like how you said from the top, you being the CRO and sending the message all the way down to the salespeople that you can walk away from deals. That not every deal is a deal you have to chase, and there are good deals and bad deals.
There are.
Yeah.
There are good customers and bad customers for us. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just what they need doesn't vibe with what we can do, and that's okay. And
that's a win-win for everybody too, right? Like that saves the customer time and hassle too. Like
Absolutely.
those situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How did that company respond when you pulled out? Did they say, wait, or did they just didn't care?
They didn't care.
Even better then. Even better.
Validating for me. If they said, wait, I would have been like, oh, they probably thought this was a clever sales trick. It actually wasn't.
Yep.
But when it went into the vacuum, I remember being like, imagine if we designed a deck and did the presentations and recorded the deck, all the things you got to do this stuff. For what? Like they were, and typically in sales, when that sort of game's being played, that's typically a procurement tactic to squeeze an incumbent. That's typically what's happening behind the scenes, And so if you're not on the phone with the team, you're just a number that they're checking in their spreadsheet. It's like, here, just put whatever number you want for me. It's cool. Whatever you want, it's fine.
That's what happens. Companies get too big, they actually end up hurting themselves.
Yeah.
I said this all the, I said, look, I get it, big companies, I get enterprises, I know what you're trying to do, but the RFP process is actually hurting you and your procurement team is hurting you. You think it's helping you because you think it's streamlining, but it's not allowing you to get the best solution, nor is it allowing you to get the best solution for the best price.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it's like, I'll tell you two quick procurement things. The first one, both major companies, publicly traded, Fortune 100, the whole thing. The procurement team on Exhibit A, completely disconnected from the buyer. So our team's like doing all this great work and they're trying to take the buyer back 16 steps of productivity.
Yep.
And they weren't even talking. We just won another green bottles of beer. Big contract, pumped about it. The procurement lady was fantastic because she knew her job was to coordinate, get people around the table, and she also kept it real. Like she wasn't, and so if the structure of them, because they're all matrix organizations, they're all trying to figure out how to digitally transform. If the structure isn't going to create it, then you are relying on talented individuals, which is. Unfortunately, I mean, this is another reason why I like your framework is we do actually do business with humans. And so, in this case, it's just an example of good luck versus bad luck. But the procurement people who get it do get it, which was refreshing. This same woman joined the kickoff call that we had today,
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was ready to go, which is really cool.
All right. So once you guys, how's your team doing now once they get past the discovery? So, dealing with the deals, getting them unstuck, dealing with some of the late objections, because you get a lot less objections. Do you agree with this? You get a lot less objections when you gap sell.
You do. I think that there's another level of selling that has to happen, particularly if we're selling to VPs. Once they buy in conceptually, there's somebody very technically. So that process actually, what we've learned is that needs to start again, even though we've already sold it. Even though the money's there, it's like, okay, you, Jessica, or John, what is your thing that you're trying to do? So we can make sure that program ladders. So yeah, it does cut through a lot of noise in terms of what's in our pipeline, right? It makes our pipeline a lot easier to feel that it's healthy, and where there's crap, we know it's there. But also by just showing up to the client and saying, hey, these are the 4 things you told me.
Yeah.
Things I'm going to do to help them go away. Like, because, they don't need to hear about, Zappi has 900 features, 20 products. Who cares? Unless it's the 2 features that matter to you, right? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So I think that's been huge.
Have you seen an increase in average deal size?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are you allowed to share, or at least, or a percentage, or a box, or something?
Our ARPA has gone up. I'll share ARPA. Our ARPA has gone up over 20% this year. And that's a big base, and we've got 300 something customers. So that's really important. And we have the benefit of, like, probably this time last year, we had 1 or 2 anchor major customers. We've got 10 now that are, all around the world buying from us. And I think it's also an organizational thing. We've become a lot more customer centric everywhere. The product teams wake up and think about customers. We did a customer week virtually that was attended, I had people in Europe dialing in at 11 o'clock at night. So that's also, I think, key to this. Because if you get, I think gap selling and actually Gong are 2 tools that have allowed the organization to understand more. So the person who loved gap selling training probably more than anybody was our head of product.
Yeah.
I remember him, the big tall guy standing in the back of the session. Yeah. I absolutely love this framework. This makes it so much easier for me to synthesize what we do. And it was you who put me on to how important this stuff is for marketing purposes. So we did a rebrand this, I wouldn't even say a rebrand. We refreshed the words on the website and the whole thing. And it was definitely anchored a lot more at what does the persona care about? What are they dealing with? Well, otherwise, who cares, right? It doesn't matter. So yeah, it's been fun. So yeah, deal sizes, I'm pleased are going up. But we've also acknowledged there's a land and expand component. So if it starts small, if that's what's best for that buyer, we like, that's okay. That's not a problem. We don't need to chase big $1 million deals.
You don't have to bite. You don't have to put the whole elephant in the bag at once.
Correct.
Yep. What about average time to close and stuff like that?
Well, because of the land and expand nature, there's like so many different paths. But if I look at our straight like big subscription tickets, it was 8 months. It's probably something like 3 to 4 now.
Wow.
Yeah, like but they don't always go that way. I think part of that is biased by us forcing it that way early. Maybe
you get rid of the shit.
Yep. You're not ready for that, but I could help you on a Tuesday. Yeah. It's the benefit of us having a consumption-based service offer, right? Is like and now that we've calibrated that, it works well for us. But yeah, the subscription sale process has shortened by about 50%. And I think what we've spent more time on now is implementation and success. And that then dovetails into, let me tell my friends about you, which is, if we can get our clients promoted, which we've been doing a lot lately, that also helps the whole process just sort of rinse and repeat. I didn't work with you on this because it was sort of the thing after our thing ended, our first project ended. But the other thing was just getting super clear around the customer journey from their perspective.
Yes.
And everybody touches it. How do we remove friction, right? Like what? And actually, we have a key. We use OKRs as like a performance management framework, and pretty much everywhere outside of sales, because sales teams have quotas. But we have a score for each step of the customer journey. And Julio, who you met when you came to Zappi, has basically been saying, okay, we have the biggest friction here. What are we doing in Q3 to remove that? And those things help the expansion process because it means our salespeople can sell. They're not doing triage and all that other sort of stuff.
Yeah. All right, we got a question from Ryan Welker. Hey,
Ryan Welker, what's up, man? Great name.
Ryan has a question for Ryan. He says, and this is probably going to be targeted around your new logo team, but how has Gap Selling changed how your team prospects for the net new customers?
I mean, I think the messaging strategy is a lot more custom. And, Rob Yeager, who heads growth for us, I've yet to meet somebody better at getting in somewhere than Rob in the whole world. But Rob will take 8 hours to study a company before he sends a single message. But he'll send, normal new business cadences. What are they saying on outreach now? 10 touches or something like that. He'll cut through in 1 or 2. Now, I'll be absolutely lying to you, Ryan, if I said that's our ubiquitous thing. We're just breaking through the clutter, particularly now. Like, it's freaking hard to get access to a buyer now. Everybody's busy. So I think our reps that are getting net new meetings on the acquisition side are doing that. We call it harpooning. So we'll go in, LinkedIn connections. What's the investor profile look like? What's the CEO talking about? What was their latest filing? Those things can help triangulate a messaging strategy, but it's not for those who are looking to automate sales because it doesn't work. That's called marketing. So fortunately for us, Ryan, we do believe in brand and content. And so we put on a virtual summit before anybody else had really done it in early May. And that was huge for us because we basically had the showcase of our greatest customer stories in one place. And that then gave our net new teams, something to triangulate and share. So I know, but I'm actually Keenan, how's the Gap Selling prospecting going? Because that was something I was thinking about calling you about, because that's a relatively new program you're running out there with, right? Yeah.
And it's going well. We have a virtual one coming up next week, and then another one in 2 weeks after that. It's going really well. It's because it's chapter. God, do you think I'd know my own book by now? I think that's, what is that? The part 3, chapter 10 or 11.
Yeah. If I remember correctly. Yeah.
So that whole thing around intrigue and generating intrigue and how the brain works using the ACC, right? And the oh shit circuit. So what I do is I break all that down, teach everybody that, and then how to build their messages and what the email should look like, et cetera. So it's going really, really well. People are enjoying it. It's making huge impact. I mean, understand the time we're in. It's tough. You got to do something to break through. So this gives you the framework to create the creativity to get there. Like just like gap selling, the discovery piece, once you get them in and move them through the pipeline, like you called it, need a PhD. This is similar too, because everybody comes to these things looking for a silver bullet. And I'm like, I'm giving you the framework, but the people who win are the ones who are most creative.
Correct.
And coming up with the intriguing email that leverages their knowledge, that gets the buyer to say, hey, wait, I didn't know that. Hey, wait, you have something I need, right? And so some people just not very creative at it, or they just go really, really fast. Others, they get good at it. But so it's been going fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Glad to hear that. I think that point, though, is like, I was reading some, there's all these pundits on LinkedIn. We have a sales management crisis. Probably true, right? Probably a part of the problem. You got a lot of good reps that became sales leaders. Fine.
Yeah.
But there's too many people looking for shortcuts. On any stage of the customer journey, mm-hmm. Preparation, creativity, actually caring about them being successful. I mean, it's a different game for salespeople today.
Big time.
So it's
right. JD Daves or Davies, but I think it's going to be Daves. How do you sell if your marketplace is temporarily closed, ever changing? We help PTA/principals fundraise their budget through our character and fitness program.
Wow. You're going to go first on this one. This is your show. That's a tough one.
So look, here's how I break it down. Okay. And I'm going to go with it's in Boston. He's Booster. I thought it's in Boston. All right. Listen, JD, the first thing I would tell you is if the market is closed, because I think sometimes we use words that don't adequately define what's going on. So if the market is actually closed, like there's no business, okay? So if all of a sudden all the restaurants are closed down because of COVID, then you don't sell. There's nothing to sell if it's closed, okay? Now, if it's closed temporarily and there's a belief system that it could open, then it's going to be difficult, but then you have to figure out what problems do you solve that will come with the reopening, or that could impact that company when reopening comes from not being successful. So again, it all comes back to you have to understand what problems are going on in the space. So the first one is if it's actually closed, you're fucked. It is what it is. Sorry. Okay. If it's ever changing, then you got to understand where your role in the ever change is. How do you minimize the negative outcomes or the negative impacts of the ever changing? How do you help them change so they can capitalize on the change? Zoom's a good example. Zoom was already making money. When this whole thing shit the bed, Zoom quickly realized the whole world needs this shit, and they started making all kinds of changes to get people in who didn't have it before. My kids did not know what Zoom was.
Now they do. Your 9-year-old has a Zoom app on her phone now.
Yes. In January, and I've been on Zoom for years. My kids come in and they would say hi to me when I do shit like this, but they didn't know what Zoom was. They by name. And then all of a sudden, my kids don't even know what it is. Like it's on their phone, their iPads. Like, oh, Dad, I go get a Zoom call for school. Zoom figured out how to get that into the school systems. So if you're selling budget fundraising, I don't know what this character and fitness program is. I don't know what the program is. But it seems to me now more than ever, schools are going to need to fundraise. So you got to ask, how does your product or service actually help them in this environment to raise funds and to help move through this? And if you can't, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you don't have a business. And I can't change that for you or anybody else. But if you do have a business, you got to figure out how does your fitness and character program help them weather this storm or get through this storm. I think I said way back in the day, if your product doesn't, how did I say, it was a nifty little rhyme too, doesn't help them alleviate, mitigate, or something, what's going on today, then stop selling to them.
Yeah. We had an example of, we do business with a big sports betting app. We onboarded them in March. There weren't no sports until, it was great to watch sports this weekend, I have to say. There was no sports for a while, but similar to what Keenan said, we spent the whole last quarter helping them think through what they could get value-wise already so that they were ready when they come back. So if your principals undoubtedly have a Google Doc open right now, like returning to school, and depending on their state or what side of the bed our government wakes up on, we're in different situations on this topic, but helping the principal think through school's return. If you can come up with some ideas. I mean,
in the hole in the budget. If you help with budget, right? Is there
well-being of the students? I mean, I actually just decided my son's supposed to. He's like on the fence year-wise. Supposed to go to kindergarten this year, and we actually just decided to keep him out for another year. It's like it wasn't worth this. Whatever's happening, he'll be fine.
Absolutely. All right. Well, did that help? Let me see. Any other questions? Hold on, JD. I hope that helps. I don't think we can answer this one, but what is your opinion to enter India market in current situation, selling product? I don't know anything about the India market. Sorry.
Yeah, we do business there, but I'd say we're mostly servicing Western companies. That's a business decision we've made.
Sorry, Doc. All right. I understand the core tenet of gap selling is selling to the problem, whereas I've heard of other trainers recommend selling to the pain. What is the main difference, and do you advise addressing either first when doing outreach? I'm going to put you on the spot because I hate when people say sell to the pain. I hate it. So would you want to answer that question? You know the difference? So how would you describe the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's something like from a marketing perspective, I definitely try to talk more about human emotions than business problems. And that could be closely linked to pain. Like we're just about to ship a new explainer video today, and it's written from the prose of a busy one of our users and what he or she goes through. But I think where this matches for me personally, and you're probably going to light me up over this, is what is the person you're selling to's goals? What are the business's goals, and where are they in harmony? And that's where I would want to play. Because there isn't we do sell to people in a B2B organization, but they do have KPIs and a career and a bonus, and whatever their lever is important to understand.
So I'm not gonna light you up. You're actually not too far off, actually. So this is how I look at it. To me, pain is just there. So if I can find the problem, and I can find the desired outcome or the impact of that problem, right? And what you can't get to, the pain is the symptom. The pain is a symptom. So my issue with selling to pain is if I go find the pain and start selling to that, I'm selling to a symptom and may or may not be accurately identifying the solution and not be able to accurately understand the size of the gap or anything because I'm selling to the pain.
Yeah.
The problem is the root fucking cause, right? So using a dumb example is, let's go with a cold. Why are we unable to keep people from getting colds? Because every cold virus is different. So the problem is I have a cold virus. The symptom or the pain is I can't get out of bed, or the pain is I have a really bad headache, or I've got a really sore throat, right? The impact of that is I can't go to work, or the pain is I don't feel good, therefore I can't go to work, I can't spend time with my kids, and therefore I could lose money, etc. Right? So if I go in and just say, "Oh, you're sneezing, that sucks. You must hate the sneezing. Let me sell this," and I can't solve the actual core problem, and I don't understand the fact that sneeze, the core problem is keeping you from going to work, and it's costing you the inability to make your rent. That's not a very good way to sell. Yeah. If you sell the wrong thing, you're like, I'll just deal with the sneeze. Right? Getting to the problem actually allows you to walk through the process all the way down to the size of the impact and create the gap. I think it's much more difficult to create the real gap if you focus on just the pain. The pain becomes, what I'm trying to say is the pain becomes evident and clear once you do the gap. I don't have to find it. It comes. It's like, oh, boom.
What if you I'd love to do some analysis on this, but I bet if you were just under your definition, if you looked at customers' lifetime value that were sold on pain versus problems, I bet there's a lot more churn on pain.
Oh, a lot more churn.
How often do people, we got to buy a new tool for this?
Yeah.
I just had somebody the other day, we got to buy a new tool. Well, okay, what are we actually solving? And all of a sudden you ask that why 10 times. You don't need a new tool. It was actually a breakage of two different departments not talking. So if we bought a new tool, that poor new tool would have churned.
They would not have fixed the problem. Yeah. So yes, that's it right there. He said that so well. He said this so well. All right, man. Look, we're coming up. This was dope. Anything you want to add? Anything you want to say to people?
Yeah, just if you're considering some engagements, Keenan did a great job of helping us with gap selling training. But I think his experience with, guys consulted with how many dozens or hundreds of organizations. Honestly, VPs of sales, CROs, CEOs, it's refreshing to have a consulting partner who's gonna keep it real with you and allow you to be vulnerable, but also like, check you. So I would highly recommend the approach. I thought it was invaluable for me. And so I just appreciate you. Last thing I'll say is, if you're a smart creative sales rep, call me. I'm hired. I want to make some money with you. You feel me?
Yes. Look, man, a lot of salespeople lost their gigs.
I know.
I don't know, JD.
Competitive market, man.
JD, I don't know. You might want to come on over. You asked a good question, and if you're not in the right space, maybe it's time to make a move.
That's right. So, no, that's it. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I did officially get a hall pass from Jill that if I can fly, I have a carte blanche to get on a plane and ski whenever there's a lot of snow. For those of you who don't know me, I live in New England and we don't have great snow. We have great sports teams, but not great snow.
And now you know that this year will be the first year that I will be living in Vail full time.
I know you might have somebody on your couch for a few days, bud.
That's okay, man. I'll take it, man.
That's awesome.
Yes, so I'll be able to, rather have to only go up on the weekends, I can be like, shit, I'm going out for 2 hours before I come and deal with all y'all.
That's going to be nice. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can, well, for you, you're fine. I might just be up at Killington every weekend.
No, man, you got the pass. You got the pass. Bring it out. And
yeah, that's true. Worst case, I'll drive out. It's all good.
We will make some turns.
That's all awesome. Right. Well, thank you, man, for having me, and for everybody who to listen to us. Hopefully this was helpful, and we'll talk to you soon. Yes, thanks, y'all. Love you. You know what I'm saying? Thanks very much. Thanks, baby. Love you. See you, man. Much love.